Millions of Americans tuned in to watch the impeachment hearings this week. The three major networks scrapped regular programming to carry them, and cable news outlets went wall to wall with coverage from Capitol Hill. But where you chose to watch the hearings and the pundits that followed could affect how you interpreted what happened, what you heard. And President Trump, who often touts the way Fox handles the news, likely saw this.
I have no evidence of any kind that the president was involved in criminal activity. That was her answer. And it should have been the last thing that she said today. Everything after that was a waste of our time in a country with so many problems that time wasting is a sin. And yet, Marie Yovanovitch kept going and going and going. By the end, the hearing sounded like a therapy session or an extended meeting with the HR department. This is the person we hired to represent our country's interests before a foreign government in one of the roughest regions in the world. Shocked, appalled. It's pretty embarrassing. In fact, it's kind of scary. Who's doing the screening over there at the State Department? How many other neurotics currently hold ambassador rank?
Today, another national disgrace. What we saw again. Every American needs to see this. A BS pathetic show trial. Zero substance, zero facts, zero, get this, firsthand knowledge, nothing, zero, zip, nada. And, of course, no due process. We got a judge, jury, and executioner, His Highness. We got the compromised, corrupt, coward, congenital liar, Adam Schiff. Oh, he was in rare form today.
CNN's chief media correspondent and anchor of reliable sources, Brian Stelter, is here with us now. Brian, if people weren't able to watch the hearings themselves, and a lot of people probably didn't because it was during the day, people work, people go to school, people have other responsibilities, and all they heard was what we just played, what does that mean for this impeachment process?
It means that the split in our information universes impacts our political universe, our political debate. If you are only hearing what Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity are telling you about impeachment, then you think the Democrats are an evil bunch of troublemakers who are trying to hurt and destroy the country. That is the message hour after hour from these top-rated shows, and it absolutely affects both the president's mindset, because he then reflects back what he hears, and it impacts what GOP voters are thinking. And ultimately, that then impacts the Republican senators. They're going to have to make a vote on this.
But are the facts breaking through and they're just spinning them, or are they just disregarding the facts altogether?
I think they're operating in a alternative universe where the damaging information that comes out during these hearings is discarded and blamed on rogue elements or things like that, or what they say is the deep state. It is this echo chamber that is getting stronger and stronger that I think these Fox personalities are inside. And ultimately, it hurts all of us because it makes it impossible to have a debate about the facts, the substance that's at stake. When they are saying these hearings are boring and bogus, they're ignoring the constitutional issues at play. But this has been very effective. I have to say, Hannity's ratings were very high this week. Not as high as the hearings overall. I think most people did hear something about the testimony, whether they soaked it up through their social media feeds, et cetera. But Hannity is 1,000% behind President Trump. So are these other players in the right-wing media universe. They're showing no signs of being concerned so far.
Well, I think it's important, though, not to paint with super broad brushstrokes, because there were a few exceptions, and I do want to play
Fox.
I do want to play a couple of those as well.
Yeah.
I think that if you are not moved, and we'll have to wait and see what happens in the cross-examination, but if you are not moved by the testimony of Marie Yovanovitch today, you don't have a pulse.
So we have a very powerful, persuasive witness.
This whole hearing turned on a dime when the president tweeted about her real time. That enabled Schiff to then characterize that tweet as intimidating the witness or tampering with the witness, which is a crime, adding essentially an article of impeachment real time.
We know this is the president's preferred news source.
Yes,
if he is listening to that, how do you think that went over?
I think he was probably throwing something at the television at that moment in time. But then those voices from the news division get drowned out later in the day by the opinion hosts. I think that is the bottom line. Sometimes I watch Fox during the day. I'm thinking, wow, the president really is in trouble. And then by the end of the night, I am told that he is a hero, that he is the king, and that nothing can stop him. Or that he's the victim. That's probably the best word, victim. That's what it always comes back to. So, yes, there is real reporting going on during the day, but it's drowned out at night as people are heading to bed and turn out the TV for the night. I think that is the reality of this divided media landscape that Nixon and Clinton were not up in, were not challenged during the Nixon impeachment, during the Clinton impeachment. This is a very different media ecosystem.
Bueno, mira, yo creo que no ha sido un día muy bueno para el presidente porque Sondland es una persona que apoyó al presidente, dio una donación de $1 millón para la campaña y lo pusieron a él como embajador para la Unión Europea y él iba a ser un testigo muy importante para esta investigación porque él estuvo presente durante la llamada y estuvo en comunicación constante con el presidente y él confirmó que el presidente abusó del poder de su oficina, de la presidencia, para extorsionar el gobierno de Ucrania, poniendo en peligro la seguridad nacional de los Estados Unidos, y lo hizo para beneficiarse para su campaña política, para el 2020, y en verdad no para la seguridad de los Estados Unidos.
As Ambassador Bolton was trying to move that part of the discussion away, I think he was going to try to deflect it onto another wrap-up topic, Ambassador Sondland leaned in basically to say, well, we have an agreement that there will be a meeting if specific investigations are put underway. And that's when I saw Ambassador Bolton stiffen. I was sitting behind him in the chair, and I saw him sit back slightly like this. He'd been more moving forward like I am to the table. And for me, that was an unmistakable body language, and it caught my attention. And then he looked up to the clock, and, you know, at his watch or towards his wrist in any case. Again, I was sitting behind him and basically said, well, you know, it's been really great to see you. I'm afraid I've got another meeting.
And did Ambassador Sondland say who his agreement on this White House meeting was with?
In that particular juncture, I don't believe so. It was later, which I'm sure you'll want to talk about, that he did say more specifically.
And what did he say later?
Later, he said that he had an agreement with Chief of Staff Mulvaney that in return for investigations, this meeting would get scheduled.
And was he specific at that point later about the investigations that he was referring to?
He said the investigations in Burisma.
Now, did you have a conversation with Ambassador Bolton after this subsequent meeting with Ambassador Sondland?
I had a discussion with Ambassador Bolton both after the meeting in his office, a very brief one, and then one immediately afterwards, the subsequent meeting.
So the subsequent meeting, or after both meetings, when you spoke to him and relayed to him what Ambassador Sondland said, what did Ambassador Bolton say to you?
Well, I just want to highlight, first of all, that Ambassador Bolton wanted me to hold back in the room immediately after the meeting. Again, I was sitting on the sofa with a colleague.
Right, but just in that second meeting, what did he say?
Yes, but he was making a very strong point that he wanted to know exactly what was being said. And when I came back and related it to him, he had some very specific instruction for me. And I'm presuming that that's
what was that specific instruction?
The specific instruction was that I had to go to the lawyers, to John Eisenberg, our senior counsel for the National Security Council, to basically say, you tell Eisenberg, Ambassador Bolton told me, that I am not part of this whatever drug deal that Mulvaney and Sondland are cooking up.
What did you understand him to mean by the drug deal that Mulvaney and Sondland were cooking up?
I took it to mean investigations for a meeting.
Did you go speak to the lawyers?
I certainly did.
You relayed everything that you just told us and
I relayed
more?
it precisely, and then the details of how the meeting had unfolded as well, which I gave a full description of this in my October 14 deposition.
If you win the 2020 election, what would you say in your first call with Russian President Vladimir Putin?
It's a fun moment. Well, first I'd say, I'm sorry I beat your guy. And second, I would say the days of meddling in American elections are over, and we will take any undermining of our democratic processes as an act of hostility and aggression.
With all due deference to the fact that this is a presidential debate, Donald Trump got punked. He has conducted foreign policy since day one, born out of a very fragile ego.
It is time to bring our troops home. But unlike Trump, I will not do it through a tweet at 3 o'clock in the morning.
We do not have a 21st century security strategy coming from this president. After all, he's relying on 17th century security technologies like a moat full of alligators.
I know you recently put together a list of 45 ways the president has been dishonest about his Ukraine dealings and the impeachment inquiry. So on that list, what stands out to you?
Well, there's a whole lot of egregious up is down kind of stuff. The president is basically making a comprehensive effort to reframe reality on this scandal. The most frequent false claim he's made is the claim that the whistleblower, who has been proven highly accurate, was highly inaccurate. Through last Sunday, I haven't kept my count up to date yet, he said that 38 separate times in different ways, 38 separate times saying something that is verifiably incorrect.
So since this story, broke, we've also heard this, in fact, repeatedly from the president. Listen.
Because I want Germany, and I want France, and I want the European Union to put up money. And I didn't delay anything. We paid the military aid to the best of my knowledge.
So multiple testimonies we've heard, from career diplomats this week suggest otherwise. Explain.
Yeah, so there are two things wrong there. One, European countries have spent billions of dollars providing loans and grants to Ukraine since Russia's invasion in 2014. But more importantly, there was, of course, a delay. As you said, we have testimony, we have reporting, and we have Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney on the record saying, quote, we held up the money. And so this is another example of Trump, describing up as down. These aren't slight exaggerations. These are whoppers. These are really big lies.
Another script President Trump, is trying to rewrite is how House Intel Chair Adam Schiff, plays into all of this. And what did you find out?
Well, Trump has been blasting Schiff for comments Schiff made at a House Intelligence Committee meeting in September, and that's fair enough. Schiff did exaggerate what Trump said according to the rough transcript on that July call, but Trump has been doing something really weird, and he's been switching up the timeline of this. He's been arguing that Schiff made his comments before Trump released the rough transcript, and then Trump outsmarted him by releasing the transcript that proved him wrong. In fact, Schiff spoke the day after Trump released the transcript, and so this is the president playing with time, again, playing with reality to make some very confusing, very trivial point about what happened here.
Good day, everyone. Several different weather systems evolving over the next 24 hours for the western and central portions of the country. Meanwhile, the East Coast remains high and dry with plenty of sunshine, a few embedded clouds from time to time from the mid-Atlantic through the New England coastline. But look at the storm system across the Great Lakes. For the most part, this will be a rainmaker, but there is enough cold air settling in behind it that we will transition some of this rain to snow. Rain and a few embedded thunderstorms with the progression of this cold front, and mountain snow starting to pile up at some of the ski resorts across the Rockies and into the Sierra Nevada mountain range. More on that in just 1 second. If you're located across Chicago into Grand Rapids or Detroit, you've got a wet day ahead of you. You can see the rain moving through the region, but on the backside of this system, enough cold air drawing in from the north that will transition some of that rain into a few light snowflakes. Now over the west, you can see the winter storm warnings and advisories that are in place across the Rockies all the way to the west coast. Good news, too, because, of course, this is welcomed precipitation for the state of California. You can see the rain and snow evolving over the next 24 hours with some of that moisture stretching eastward. Now, right through the early parts of the weekend, you can see how the wet weather will shape up across the eastern half of the country as some of that energy and moisture moves its way across the country. Rainfall and snowfall totals over the next 24 to 36 hours. Heaviest snows across the Colorado Rockies. There's the rainfall picking up across the Tennessee River Valley. Temperatures today, 62 for Memphis, 54 for the nation's capital, 52 across the Big Apple, but several opportunities for cold winter-like temperatures over the next few days across the northern parts of the country, stretching to the East Coast. Here's a look at your daytime highs right through the weekend. I'm CNN meteorologist Derek Van Dam from the Weather Center. Have a great day, everyone.